Releasing these 12 trauma knots is like unlocking a power you didn't even know you had. They are hidden within your body, silent, choking your life force like invisible chains. Each knot holds memories, fears, and traumas you don't even remember experiencing. Yet you feel them every single day. They distort your breathing, steal your voice, and keep your nervous system living in the past. And no matter how many therapies you've tried, if these trauma knots remain, everything stays stuck. From your pelvis to your jaw, there's a secret map where each blockage is a closed door to your authentic self. And while these portals remain shut, your vibration stays limited, and your healing remains incomplete. But what I'm about to share with you will change everything you thought you knew about trauma recovery. You'll understand that nothing you feel is random. There's a hidden pattern in every muscle tension and every silence in your body. This video reveals where these 12 trauma knots are located, why they lock your life force, and how leading trauma researchers say you can address each one, but not in a superficial way. You'll discover the complete roadmap that connects ancient wisdom with cutting-edge neuroscience to restore the flow of both body and mind. If you're ready to understand the chains that block your healing, stay until the end, because today you'll see the map that few know about. You'll understand why Dr. Bessel van der Kolk says, "The body keeps the score," and how your body has become the true guardian of your unprocessed experiences. The trauma knots that imprison your energy aren't just tense muscles. They're what researchers call somatic imprints, silent signals recorded in the deep memory of your body, as if every fiber had learned to hold on to something it could not release. When your life feels stuck, when joy doesn't flow, or exhaustion never goes away, the root is almost always in these forgotten points that science is only beginning to understand. This isn't just theory I'm sharing with you. After spending 3 years researching everything from Peter Levine's Somatic experiencing to the latest studies on trauma and the nervous system, I've discovered a precise protocol that maps these knots from your core to your throat, revealing where each one hides and how it distorts your internal flow. What I learned changed my life, and by watching until the end, you'll discover how to recognize your own trauma patterns, understand why they remain active, and learn what qualified professionals say about addressing them to release trapped life force. This isn't just physical relief, it's what researchers call somatic reorganization. Every civilization that dared to look inside the body discovered that trauma is only the surface of something greater. Among the healing traditions of Egypt, the body was seen as a network of living portals, where the flow of energy defined not only vitality, but also the quality of consciousness and creativity. Ancient healers described the body as a mirror of inner states, governed by laws of rhythm and vibration. If any part of this flow was interrupted by trauma, the entire system would become rigid, reflecting stagnation in every area of life. The wisdom schools knew that every physical blockage was a symbol of something that had not completed its cycle, a trapped emotion, an unresolved fear, an interrupted survival response. In the East, masters of healing arts drew maps of energy, describing how specific points in the body hold invisible stories. In the West, pioneering researchers sought the same understanding through different languages, always arriving at the same truth. Freeing these trauma knots meant freeing consciousness itself. When trauma doesn't resolve, the body creates secret maps to survive. Science may not speak of the soul, but it sees the marks. Dr. Stephen Porter, with his groundbreaking polyvagal theory, shows that the vagus nerve is the command line between creation and defense. When it's stuck in trauma mode, the jaw tightens, the voice falters, and breathing loses its depth, as if the body were constantly waiting for the next threat. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk confirms this in his revolutionary research. Trauma is physical. It's recorded in posture, in the tension of the throat, and in the way the chest cannot fully expand. It's not just conscious memory, it's an automatic reaction. The body remembers what the mind has forgotten. Researchers like Dr. Robert Schlipp have revealed that fascia, this web that surrounds muscles and bones, holds tension like living scars. It responds to emotions, hardens with trauma, and shapes the body like invisible armor. The field of epigenetics studied by Dr. Bruce Lipton, shows that trauma can cross generations, altering genetic expression. Sometimes, the weight you feel wasn't born with you. It comes from stories that your body still carries. Imagine that each trauma knot in your body is like a dormant portal, a protective code that once closed itself to keep you safe. The problem is that over time, this protection turned into a prison. The map we're about to explore runs from your pelvis to your jaw, an ascending line holding 12 critical points, each with its own story and its own key. We're not talking about simple stretching or basic relaxation. What researchers have discovered goes much deeper. These are neurochemical patterns, automatic trauma responses, and frozen survival states that prevent your nervous system from opening to healing and authentic living. Based on the latest research in somatic trauma therapy, I'm going to walk you through each of these 12 portals, showing you what qualified practitioners have learned about how trauma gets stored and what they say about the release process. First portal, tailbone and sacrum. The frozen root. This is where primal fear settles, where the feeling of not being safe takes physical form. When this trauma knot is stuck, the lower back becomes heavy, and the body loses its ability to sustain its own vital energy. Research shows this area holds our most basic survival fears. Somatic practitioners work with gentle movement to teach the nervous system that it's safe to release what's been held here. Second portal, pelvic floor, the knot of control. This is where you hold everything you're afraid to let go of. The sensation is like holding your entire body with an invisible rope. Studies on trauma and the pelvic floor show this area often contracts during threatening experiences and can remain tight for years. Qualified practitioners use specific techniques that alternate gentle engagement and release, always paired with conscious breathing. Third portal, psoas and hip flexors, the guardian of ancient fear. When this deep muscle system is tight from trauma, you may feel unexplained anxiety, disconnection from your legs, and deep fatigue. Research calls the psoas the muscle of the soul because of its connection to our fight-flight responses. Trauma-informed practitioners work with this area through gentle, supported movements that restore the sense of grounding and safety. Each of these first 3 portals acts like a foundation that organizes the entire nervous system. When you work with qualified practitioners to address these areas, the whole system begins to respond. Breathing improves, posture shifts, and even your voice can change. With the foundation beginning to soften through proper therapeutic work, the release continues through what researchers call the power center of the body, where trauma affects how you breathe, feel, and express your energy. Fourth portal, respiratory diaphragm, the invisible ceiling. This point acts like a barrier over the lungs. When it's locked by trauma, you breathe only halfway, sigh without noticing, and feel like something is always hanging in the air. Studies show trauma survivors often have restricted diaphragmatic breathing. Somatic practitioners work with three-dimensional breathing techniques that slowly restore full respiratory capacity. Fifth portal, solar plexus and celiac network, where emotion becomes power or blockage. This is the center where emotional trauma turns into either strength or paralysis. When it's stuck, you may feel a knot in your stomach, waves of shame, or an inner heaviness that stops you from acting. Research on the gut-brain shows this area holds tremendous emotional intelligence. Therapeutic approaches often combine gentle touch with sound and vibration to help release what's been suppressed here. Sixth portal, sternum and heart protector, the shielded heart. This is the emotional armor that keeps the nervous system from receiving love or opening up after betrayal or heartbreak. Studies on attachment trauma show how the chest area can literally close off after relational injuries. Qualified practitioners use specific techniques to slowly help the heart area feel safe enough to open again, always at the client's pace. When the foundation and power center begin to release through proper therapeutic support, we arrive at the most subtle and powerful territory, the portals of expression, voice, and consciousness. These areas hold not only physical tension, but also your capacity for authentic self-expression. Seventh portal, thoracic outlet and shoulder girdle, the narrowed gateway. Here, the energetic flow often constricts like a bottleneck. When blocked by trauma, You may feel tingling, heaviness in shoulders, or difficulty expressing yourself. Research on trauma and the nervous system shows how this area can compress under chronic stress. Somatic practitioners work with gentle mobilization to help restore natural flow through this critical juncture. Eighth portal, cervical spine and hyoid bone. The knot of forbidden speech. Here lies what researchers call trapped voice, the result of times when you couldn't speak your truth or were silenced. When locked, it creates sensations of lumps in the throat, voice trembling, or emotional choking. Studies show trauma often gets held in the throat area. Therapeutic approaches combine gentle movement with vocal techniques to help restore authentic expression. Ninth portal, throat and larynx, the gateway of blocked air. This controls the flow of breath that carries your voice and authentic expression. Research shows how trauma can affect vocal cord tension and breathing patterns. Qualified practitioners use specific breathing and vocal techniques to help reorganize the throat muscles and dissolve blockages connected to suppressed communication. 10th portal, jaw and TMJ, where decision gets trapped. The jaw is where the force of choice and boundaries gets locked after trauma. When tight, bruxism, headaches, and mental fatigue appear. Research on trauma and the jaw shows how we literally clench down on experiences we can't process. Therapeutic work here involves tiny, conscious movements that help restore the natural flexibility needed for clear thinking and 11th portal, tongue and speech center, the tip of internal voice. This is where repetitive thoughts and anxiety often show up as physical tension. Studies on trauma and oral restriction show how the tongue can hold patterns of unexpressed communication. Somatic practitioners work with gentle tongue movements and oral awareness to help dismantle patterns of mental rumination. 12th portal, skull base and vagus junction, the sentinel, not called the master knot because it mirrors all the others. This area at the base of your skull connects to your vagus nerve, your body's main healing pathway. When locked by trauma, dizziness, disconnection, or deep fatigue can appear. Research on vagal tone shows this area is crucial for overall nervous system regulation. Qualified practitioners use gentle techniques to help activate the vagus nerves. Healing response. Let me share what happened when Sarah, someone I learned about through my research, began working with these concepts through a qualified somatic practitioner. Sarah felt her body fail. When her voice wouldn't come out during important moments, there was no pain, only a stiffness that began at her hips and climbed up to her jaw, like an invisible line holding everything rigid. Working with a certified trauma therapist, Sarah chose not to fight these sensations, but to listen. With each session, something subtle happened. A slight tremor in the sacrum, unexpected warmth in her chest, a release in her throat. It was as if her body was speaking in codes that only a trained professional could help her understand. Sarah began following these clues with her therapist's guidance. Where there was tightness, they paused and worked gently. Where there was trembling, they allowed it to complete its natural cycle. One day, as they worked with her diaphragm, she realized that each breath was like a memory dissolving. When her jaw opened with what her therapist called an involuntary release, a wave of clarity crossed her mind. This wasn't magical healing. It was what researchers call somatic reorganization. Each trauma, not that loosened, gave back something forgotten. An old dream contained strength, a sense of belonging. Sarah understood that her body wasn't just flesh. It was a map holding the story of everything she couldn't say. Now, when something locks up, she has the tools and professional support to work with it constructively. The biggest trap isn't in the trauma knots themselves, but in the belief that you have to suffer with them forever, or that you can heal complex trauma without proper support. It's easy to believe that your nervous system is too damaged, that these patterns are permanent, or that only you can understand what you're going through. What I learned through my research is that isolation is trauma's best friend. Many people try to force healing with aggressive self-help techniques, or push through symptoms alone, and this often increases inner resistance. The nervous system doesn't heal under pressure or in isolation. It heals when it feels safe and supported. This is why working with qualified trauma professionals is so crucial. They understand that transformation begins with minimal, gentle interventions, almost imperceptible ones. Guided breath, a skillfully applied touch, a movement so small it feels like nothing more than a quiet conversation between you and your nervous system. If you recognize these patterns in yourself, start by acknowledging that seeking proper help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your nervous system has been trying to protect you, and it deserves professional support to learn new ways of being in the world. What fascinates me most about the research is how it consistently shows that healing happens through gentleness, not force. Dr. Peter Levine's work demonstrates that animals in the wild naturally discharge trauma through subtle movements and trembling. They don't need to relive or re-traumatize themselves to heal. Similarly, Dr. Pat Ogden's research on sensory-motor psychotherapy shows that the body has its own intelligence for healing. When given the right conditions and support, the nervous system wants to return to balance, but it needs to feel safe enough to let go of its protective patterns. This is why qualified somatic practitioners spend so much time creating safety and building what researchers call resources. Before ever approaching trauma material, they understand that your nervous system has been doing its best to keep you alive, and any healing approach needs to honor that protective wisdom. The research consistently shows that sustainable trauma healing happens gradually, in relationship with skilled professionals, and always at the pace that feels safe to your unique nervous system. Each trauma not you recognize today isn't just physical tension, it's a story. It's the memory of something that couldn't be fully processed, never completely expressed, never safely felt. Working with qualified professionals to address these patterns isn't just about releasing muscles. You're creating space for your authentic self to emerge again. The pelvis, the jaw, the chest, the throat, all of these form what researchers call your somatic landscape. When trauma gets stored in these areas, it's like parts of you go into hiding for protection. But when you work with skilled practitioners to gently address these holding patterns, something awakens. Your breath becomes fuller, your mind quiets, and you feel a clarity that's been waiting to emerge. Not because something new arrived, but because what's always been within you finally found space to exist safely. The ancient wisdom traditions speak of rhythm, vibration, and flow. Modern trauma science confirms that the nervous system can indeed be reprogrammed through skilled therapeutic intervention. Today, you've seen that there's no separation between these approaches. They're pointing toward the same truth. Each gesture of professional support, each conscious breath guided by someone who understands trauma, each gentle intervention is a way of telling your nervous system, I'm ready to live what was once too dangerous to feel. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, "He who conquers himself is mightier than he who conquers 1,000 battles." But conquering doesn't mean controlling with force. It means feeling, listening, and integrating with proper support and guidance. Allow yourself to feel this truth right now. Close your eyes for a moment and notice which area of your body might be asking for professional attention. Notice, without judgment, without trying to fix anything yourself. Simply acknowledge what's there. This awareness itself is the beginning of healing. But remember, complex trauma patterns developed over time in relationship, and they heal most effectively in relationship with qualified professionals who understand how to work safely with the nervous system. If this information resonates with you, the most important step you can take is finding qualified professional support. Look for practitioners certified in approaches like somatic experiencing, say developed by Dr. Peter Levine, sensory-motor psychotherapy, created by Dr. Pat Ogden, EMDRI, movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, trauma-sensitive yoga, neuroaffective relational model, NARM. These professionals understand that healing happens in the body, not just through talking. They know how to work with your nervous system's natural healing capacity while maintaining safety and proper pacing. Don't wait for the perfect moment or until you feel ready enough. Your nervous system has been waiting for skilled support, and every day delay is another day of carrying burdens that don't have to define your life. Life doesn't begin after the trauma releases. Life is already here, ready to be felt, when you have proper support to let go of what no longer serves you. Each trauma pattern you address with qualified help doesn't only free your body, it liberates the story you came here to write. Your nervous system has incredible wisdom and resilience. It has kept you alive through difficult experiences. And now it's ready for the next chapter, but it needs skilled guidance to write that chapter safely. Working with qualified trauma professionals isn't just about solving problems from the past. It's about reclaiming your birthright of living with an open heart, clear boundaries, authentic expression, and the capacity to feel both joy and sorrow without being overwhelmed by either. The research is clear. With proper support, your nervous system can learn new patterns. Your body can become a source of wisdom instead of a prison of old pain. Your voice can carry truth instead of fear. And your heart can open to receive the love and connection that trauma once made feel too dangerous. If this video resonated with you, I want you to know you're not alone in this journey. Leave a comment below, sharing one thing that stood out to you. And let's build a community of people committed to healing with proper support and scientific understanding. Like this video to help others discover these insights. Subscribe to stay connected with evidence-based content about trauma and healing. And share this with someone who might benefit from understanding that their struggles aren't their fault. They're the result of a nervous system doing its best to protect them. Most importantly, please don't try to work with complex trauma patterns alone. The research is clear that isolation perpetuates trauma, while connection and proper professional support facilitate healing. Remember, each trauma you address with qualified help doesn't only free your body, it liberates the authentic person you've always been underneath the protective patterns. You deserve professional support. You deserve to feel safe in your own skin. And you deserve to discover what life feels like when your nervous system is no longer running programs from the past. The journey home to yourself is sacred work, and you don't have to walk it alone. Your healing matters, not just for you, but for everyone whose life you touch when you're living from your authentic, regulated, empowered self.